Hello, my name is Joseph Pombo, and I want to share with you a moment of my life which I call Struggle to Stand. My mother, in 2011, was my equal, and together we maintained a family house that had been around for generations. I began to work in a shoe company in New York City, and she worked at a telecommunications company for the better part of 25 years. Suddenly, her health had begun to deteriorate, and not to deteriorate in the sense that she had become ghastly looking, but so much as she could barely walk. In fact, my mother could barely stand. When, in the midst of me working on my latest project or handling the income of many, many shoes, I would receive a phone call from the police department, or my mother, or, in the worst cases, the mayor himself, because we were friends, that my mother, after she returned home from work, had fallen in front of the house. After months of receiving various calls about my mother falling out, my neighbor and godfather decided it's best that she go to a new doctor. This new doctor, luckily, had a better understanding of a lot of the various illnesses that could be affecting my mother, including which was quite possibly the result of a neurological failure, which is why my mother had no energy or no ability to stand. She struggled to stand. I stayed at work. I stayed late to ensure that the work that was piling up was handled. And still, I'd come home and my mother would be sprawled on the floor. I need to pick her up and clean her up. And this would make me late the next morning when I would get a big yell out from my boss and have to proceed with the whole story all over again the next day. So this wonderful doctor was able to find out that indeed my mother had a neurological disorder. She had multiple sclerosis. And the lesions were so embedded in her body, that in her neurological system, that there was no way she'd be able to stand. He was quite surprised that she could move. This also presented a new danger, the fact that my house was not suited for someone with this type of disease, and the health care that my mother received would not cover a health aide that lived or came in full time. The burden had been thrown upon me to be health caretaker, breadwinner, and maintain the property itself. It was a lot, and it affected me greatly. My work went from staying average to becoming subpar, reprimanded for mistakes that I was making frequently because I was not receiving the proper rest, and I was always concerned about my mother's well-being because I wasn't there all the time to keep an eye on her. Luckily, the doctor found a way, because of my mother's health deterioration and prolonged untreated disease, he was able to place her into a assisted living home. This is when my life changed. I almost lost my house, and my mother received the health care she desperately needed. My performance at work had turned around, and I was able to survive, and the upper management had changed again, and the new management had taken a better liking to me because they saw through all the things that I had gone through, I never gave up. It was a struggle. It was a very difficult and dark time in my life, but I'm glad it's over. I'm glad my mother is in the hands of proper care and not reliant on me, who's unprepared to handle such a terrible and immobilizing disease.